Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Boston Red Sox fan in 2022, you can be safe in the knowledge you won numerous World Series over the last number of years. The Yankees are pretty well in the wilderness. They may never win a World Series again. Haven't won anything really significant for more than a decade. But in 1978 were the best chance for a World Series title since they went up to against the Big Red Machine in 1975, but lost in 7 games. Were at their at their doorstep. But due to the fact that they weren't consistent during the season, they never had a closer. They had a sieve like Butch Hobson playing third and making numerous errors, and key injuries to key players, and a basic bad luck situation with the Yankees down the stretch caused the Red Sox to go from AL East title winners to a playoff game against the Yankees, which they lost and broke the hearts of Boston fans from Fenway to Florida to Africa to all over the world. Now today we're going to be talking about the 78 Red Sox and also the playoff game, a double whammy. I don't want to do an individual podcast on Butch Hobson because his .899 fielding percentage tells it all. Now, as we're entering the 78 season, now, for a lot of Toronto Blue Jay fans, this was the Blue Jays' second season, but the AL East was a total shitstorm of good teams. You had Baltimore, who had been World Series winners and contenders for a number of years. You had the Tigers. The Tigers were always strong. You had the Cleveland Indians, who were basically showing promise down the road, which would lead them obviously be a strong team in the 80s and 90s. But the Yankees were their biggest rival, and Milwaukee was coming on with Yount and Molitor. So this is what we had the AL East, ladies and gentlemen. We had Baltimore, Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, New York, and Toronto. Again, death to any team that couldn't compete. Now, that 1978 Red Sox team ended the season with 99 wins. Now, playing at venerable Fenway Park, it was their 78th season in Major League Baseball history. Now, after 162 games, they finished tied atop the AL East with identical 99-63 records. The teams then played a tiebreaker game, which was won by New York 5-4, predominantly on Bucky Dent's game-changing homer. Thus, the Red Sox finished their season with a record of 99-64, one game behind the Yankees, who went to win on the World Series in 1978. Now, the offseason for the Red Sox that year was quite interesting. They really rejigged the rotation. Mike Torres was signed. Don Ayes and Cash was traded by the Red Sox to the California Angels to future Red Sox legend Jerry Remy. Fergie Jenkins was traded by the Red Sox to the Rangers for John Poloni and Cash. Dick Drago was re-signed as a partial closer on December 27, 77. Denny Doyle was released in March of 78. Then the big trade, of course, Rick Wive, Mike Paxton, Ted Cox, and Bo Diaz were traded by the Red Sox to the Indians for Dennis Eckersley, who was a starter at the time, and Fred Kendall. Now, in the regular season, in April, they went 11-9. But in May, they really got hot, 23-7. 18-7 in June, but the July doldrums really hurt them, 13-15. 19-10 in August. September, they were 14-15, and October, they eventually tied the Yankees. Now, they were in first place again from May to August until that terrible Boston massacre. Now, for several days in July, the Red Sox were up by 16 games ahead of the Yankees. Now, at the end of play of July 19th, Boston was 62-28, and New York was in fourth at 48-42. However, the Yankees worked their way back slowly. At the end of play by September 6th, the Yankees had reduced a 14-game deficit to only 4 games, just in time for a 4-game series at Fenway Park in Boston. Now, the Yankees, of course, won all 4 games in the series by a combined score of 42-9, leaving the teams tied with identical 86-56 records at the end of play on September 10th. The series became known as the Boston Massacre, named after the March 5th, 1770 confrontation with British soldiers. Now, the Yankees held a 1-game lead over the Red Sox before the final day of the regular season, with the Red Sox win over the Jays and the Yankee loss to the Indians. The two teams finished the season in a tie for the ALL East Division title, again with records of 99 and 63. Now, what really helped the Yankees, ladies and gentlemen, in my basic opinion, they were better on the road than the Red Sox, a 45 and 37 record to Boston's 40 and 11 record. You could play at home, but had difficulties on the road. Now, Bob Ojeda was a big addition as well in May when he was signed as an amateur free agent by the Red Sox. The opening day lineup for the Red Sox, one of the best in history, with Jerry Remy at second, Rick Burnsell at shortstop, Jim Rice at DH, who was the top player of the AL that year. The veteran Carl Yastrzemski at left field, Carlton Fish at catcher, Fred Lynn at center field, the venerable George Scott at first base, Dwight Evans, very underrated, right field, Butch Hobson, and of course Mike Torres got the start. But if you look at the lineup from top to bottom, ladies and gentlemen, Boston had enough veteran players and what they call character players, including Bill Lee, Bob Stanley, Louis Tiant, Jack Brohammer was there, Bob Bailey, Bernie Carbo, who I met outside of Hartlepool a couple of years ago. Very interesting cat. And what the gerbil unfortunately really hurt the team, and I tell you why. Don Zimmer was not the best coach to work with the players on the Red Sox. Now, the key players this year, of course, were Fisk, Scott, Remy, Hobson, Burleson, Rice, Lynn, Evans, and Bailey. Now, to put this in perspective, Yastrzemski had an okay year, 17 homers, 81 RBIs, and 2.77 average. But that year, Rice's numbers were through the roof. 213 hits, 315 average, 46 homers, 139 RBIs with 7 stolen bases. But Remy was the unheralded player of the team because he drove in 44 runs, 162 hits, and 30 stolen bases. Now, Yastrzemski again, 1781 and 4. Pitching, actually went 20 and 8. Torres won 16 and 13. Tiant won 13 and 8. Bill Lee won 10 and 10. And of course, Jim Wright won 8 games. Now in the bullpen, Bob Stanley went 15 and 2 with 10 saves. Drago 4 and 4 with 7 saves. Tom Bergmeyer 2 and 1 with 4 saves. Billy Campbell 7 and 5 with 4 saves. So again, no key player in the bullpen, but could get the job done. Now that season, Dwight won a Gold Glove, as did Freddie Lynn. Jimmy Rice was the AL MVP, AL Player of the Month for May and August. Now, Rice led in hits with 213, homers with 46, and RBIs with 139. And the All-Stars were just tremendous. Ricky Burleson, Dwight Evans, Carlton Fisk, Fred Lynn, Jerry Remy, Jim Rice, and Carl Yastrzemski. So you're saying to yourself, yeah, they're having one game against the Yankees, but hey, it's going to be in Boston, and maybe they're going to take it. However, the big loss to Cleveland put the Yankees into that position, and a lot of people felt that the Yankees were the better team. Now, the Yankees were not the home team for the match, because the Red Sox, by virtue of a coin toss in baseball statistics, broke the tiebreaker. Now, this was considered a regular season game, with all events in the game added to the regular season stats. Now, Ron Guidry started for the Yankees, while Mike Torres started for the Red Sox. Now, the Yankees fell behind 2-0 in the second, with a home run by Yastrzemski and a run batted in single by Jim Rice. The Yankees then took the lead to seventh when light-hitting shortstop Bucky Dent lifted a 3-run homer over the left field wall to give the Yankees a 3-2 lead. I apologize, it wasn't a winning hit, but it sure felt like it at the time. Now, the Yankees later added 2 more runs to giving them a 5-2 lead. The Red Sox scored 2 more runs to make it a 1-run game, but the Yankees ultimately won the game when relief pitcher Goose Gossage got Yastrzemski to pop out to third baseman Craig Nettles during the save with a player at third base. Now, Guidry was the winning pitcher, while Torres received the loss. Now, big crowd there, 32,925, live on the ABC, WPIX, and WSBK. Keith Jackson and Don Drysdale did the game for ABC, with Phil Rizzuto, Frank Messer, and Bill White for WPIX, and of course the Hawk, Ken Harrelson, and Dick Stockton for WSBK. Now, the Ernie Harwell did the radio call, which it's kind of bizarre how if you listen to the game on radio, how much more devastating it sounded on the radio. Now, the last three pennants, of course, Red Sox won in 75, Yankees in 76 and 77. Heading into 78, the Yankees, Red Sox, and Orioles, who also challenged for AL East in 77, were expected to be the major contenders, but Detroit was coming on with, of course, Whitaker and Trammell. Now, at one point when the Red Sox had led the division by 10 games, the Brewers were doing well, but of course the Yankees would really hurt them. Big injuries to Willie Randolph, Catfish Under, Bucky Dent, and Mickey Rivers. Now, a shake-up continued when Munson was shifted from catcher to right field, and of course Billy Martin got fired, replaced by Bob Lemon, which I think led to the Yankees winning. Now, the Yankees had lost 4 or 5 after the All-Star break, which also led to a club suspension of Reggie Jackson after a 3-game loss to Kansas City in the series. Now, the Yankees went an untenable and unexpected 52-21 their last 73 games, while the Red Sox went only 38 and 35. Again, a 4-game sweep against Boston in September. Now, the Rick Waits could have been the giant killer. He had a big game against Toronto. Against the Yankees. And Fenway Park, of course, it was a one-day wonder, saying on the scoreboard, "Thank you, Rick Waits, game tomorrow." Now, the tiebreaker was the first at Penn Fenway since 1948 when the Indians defeated the Red Sox for the pennant at Fenway Park, and the first in the majors since the advent of the division system in '69. Now, Guidry obviously was the obvious choice. He won 24 games in regular season, but of course it started on 3 days rest. Now, Carl Yastrzemski's big hit, a lot of people felt this was going to be the factor, but with Bucky Dent, again, a light-hitting shortstop came over from the White Sox. No one expected him to have that the big hit, but it was various key plays in the game, because the Yankees, again, into the 7th inning, it looked to be Boston's game, but again, you never know. Mickey Rivers was a big factor in the game. He got on base 3 times, scoring 1. And not say Reggie was a non-factor. He only had 1 key hit in the game. Now, I really point to this like Bob Stanley coming in and not doing good work. He gave up 2 hits in a third of an inning. But Andy Hassler and Dick Drago really held the fort, so Boston could try to come back, but it didn't really work out. Now, the game was pretty well decided the World Series. After the win, the Yankees went on and defeated Kansas City in the AL title series. Of course, they beat the Dodgers in 6 games, coming back from a 2-0 deficit. Now, the loss at the Red Sox time was seen as a manifestation of the curse of the Bambino, long thought to be the reason behind the decades-long litany of failures for the Red Sox, after owner Harry Frazee sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees on January 5th, 1920. And back in 78, people really believed that. Described as a shocking blast by the Sporting News, Dent's home run silenced the Fenway Park crowd. Live by Fenway, die by Fenway, as we like to say. For the light-hitting Dent, it was his 5th home run in the 78 season. It sealed Dent's reputation among Yankee fans while inspiring the permanent nickname Bucky fucking Dent in New England. Dent, later the manager of the Yankees, was fired during a series in Boston in 1990. 25 years later, in Game 7 of the 2003 American League Title Series, Aaron Boone received similar treatment by Red Sox fans after he hit the home run in the bottom of the 11th inning that clinched the pennant for the Yankees, but the Yankees would later lose to the Marlins in the World Series, which went 6 games. Now, we all remember Game 6 in '86 against the Mets. We all remember 2003 and also 1990 with the manifestations of Roger Clemens. I really think by the time David Ortiz showed up, that's what lifted the curse. You don't need a white person to lift the curse. You need a Latino person. No offense, but there must have been a voodoo curse, and it took a great black man, a Latino man, like David Ortiz to lift the curse. And looking now in the last, I don't know, there's a whole generation of Red Sox fans that can't even conceive there was a curse of the Bambino, because look at all the success Boston's had in the last number of years. Now, Guidry and Rice were considered candidates for the AL Most Valuable Player Award for strong seasons. Eventually, Rice was named MVP, with Guidry finished second in the voting, while Guidry won the AL Cy Young. Lennon was named AL Manager of the Year. Now, to read a little bit of some of the theories behind the game, Sparky Lyle's a great book, The Bronx Zoo, The Astonishing Inside Story of the 78 World Champion New York Yankees, is a great read. Dan Shaughnessy's 2 books, The Curse of the Bambino and Reversing the Curse, and also some great articles in the New York Times and the Boston Globe, including the rivals, the Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees, an inside story, first edition. Ladies and gentlemen, all I can say is that I didn't watch the playoff game in '78. It wasn't broadcast on my local TV channels. I didn't have cable at the time. But my father said something very interesting. He said you could have had somebody better at third base, and there was a better third baseman in Major League Baseball. But to put Bud Hobson there, he had either between 40 and 45 errors. Did that cost the Red Sox the playoff? No, it comes down to they needed to win 101 games, or they were stuck at 99. If you would have won one extra game in the regular season, they would have finished ahead of the Yankees. Any of that 4-game series or a game against the Blue Jays. But it was a game that the Blue Jays played against Boston. I think it was a late comeback by Toronto. And my dad said, Boston's going to pay for that down the road. I said, Dad, what you talking about? They're 10 games ahead. No, he said, Boston finds a way to lose. And you look at 75, they should have won Game 7, but Bill Lee's Ephus pitch and all that. But being a Red Sox fan doesn't mean awful. See, with Toronto, 55 years not winning anything is different because at least, the fan base is consistent. But in the Red Sox, there's no Maple Leaf fans going to, worry themselves to death or listen to 7 hours of pregame. Maple Leaf fans are just there to, just like the colors of the team, but with the Red Sox, it's spiritual. The Maple Leafs are not spiritual, ladies and gentlemen. When the Red Sox were losing, I know it was spiritual, and a lot of people, you don't bring up 78, you don't bring up 75, you don't bring up 1990, you don't bring up 86, you don't bring up 2003. But now with all the world titles in the last number of years, it's like, what we were worrying about. What goes around comes around. The Yankees have had no success since Ortiz hit that big hit in Game 4 in 2004. And I saw that game. I woke up out of a deep sleep 1:30 in the morning to turn on my French cable, and there it was, Ortiz beating the Yankees. And I don't think the Yankees will ever win another World Series, in my personal opinion, because I think the curse has been reversed. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Vintage Baseball podcast, let us know with a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, if you're in the batter's box and your pitcher is throwing 102 miles an hour, don't do a round hunt. Take the strike. Thanks for listening. Bye.